Welcome back to The Good Talk, the show where we discuss what's hot, what's grot, and everything between in the wide world of Warhammer. I'm super excited to be here today. My name is Adrian. I'm joined by the amazing Lindsay. What's up, Lindsay?
Hey!
We are here, of course, to discuss what some people are calling the first balanced data slate edition, but it's not. In reality, it's actually not. It's doing some hot fixes post-launch, but it's not the full roster of changes that, frankly, the game deserves right now. But it was some changes that were very, very, very much needed, and frankly, it was almost unplayable in the current state if you're trying to play it at the most highest competitive level. So what happened today was GW released a number of fixes. We got some points updates. We got some rules changes. We're going to discuss all of that and more today. If you're watching and you're not subscribed, why not? You should hit that subscribe button down below, and you can get notified of all the videos we're going to be doing, including a number of videos playing through, obviously, the changes that we have here today. With that having been said, it's weird, like, having no one else here, where we were just like, you know what, Lindsay, let's put on a show. This is something that's very relevant. Let's just hop on and kind of make this happen, because really this is kind of just a conversation with the wider community. So
yeah.
John's probably asleep right now.
Oh, most likely, yeah. But it's good to, like, address, you know, this just happened, everyone's excited. Let's have a conversation about it.
Exactly, and it's very nuanced. There's more data here than I was actually expecting. We were just talking about this morning. So let's kind of parse it together live. So with that having been said, let's dive on in and take a look at these changes. So really, you see here, there are everything in these in the changes comes down to one of four categories, really three. One, we have fate dice have been changed by Eldar, which is super exciting. This is probably the most egregious of the things that needed to be adjusted. And you can see here the change that they have done is actually it's not the most conservative change, actually. It's a pretty intense change. Now when you're playing Eldar, you still get your fate dice. You get your 12 or your 15 if you're running Eldred, which competitively you will. You only get to spend one per phase. Now, what does this actually mean if you're not an Eldar player? This is extra important because of many of the most broken combos that we had allowed people to front load all their fate dice and just obliterate their opponent off the board. And a number of the combos rely on numerous sixes, right? You still have the Farseer that can make a dice into a 6. Obviously, you're going to roll some 6s most likely. And so you would have situations where if someone moved close to you, you could just hit a 6 with the Overwatch, which you would need to burn that, then burn another one to trigger devastating wounds, and then maybe you'll burn another one, probably going to burn next up a 5 or a 4 to trigger a high number of mortal wounds. So these egregious combos that we've been seeing are really enabled by front-loading all your fate dice. So I think this is a good change. I think it's going to make a lot of people happy, and could they have done a less extreme option? Sure. Would it have been enough? I'm not sure. Even this option, I think Eldar are going to be a strong place. I'm definitely curious in chat what y'all think. What does this mean for the Eldar faction? But this is probably the biggest one that people were waiting for. It's like, what are they going to do about Eldar? So
I'll be interested to see how it is.
Right?
Like how you know, because I've witnessed 2 Eldar games so far, and it just was insane with just how much. You know, how much that they could do with the fate dice. So I'll be interested to see how that how that alters their play now.
Right, exactly.
The confidence that the Eldar players would come into the game.
Right,
you know?
Just knowing what they could do, even without cheating dice. Yeah, exactly. I'm super curious to see what happens with that. Hopefully, it pushes us towards more balanced builds, because one thing that we were seeing is, frankly, 3 Wraith Knights, 3 Fire Prisms. You'd have your indirect, and you would just cram it with that, which kind of leads us to some of the next changes. We saw a number of indirect points changes, so basically across the entire army. They were oddly consistent, I guess I'll say. We'll talk about the points in depth, but basically if you have indirect, your points went up, period. Doesn't matter what army you are, doesn't matter which unit this was, it did see an increase in points. And then of course towering. Towering is a rule which has also been very contentious. Towering is a rule that big models have. So you have Knights, you have Morganot, Gorkanot, all that stuff. And basically what this means, if you're not familiar, is normally if you have a piece of ruins and you have one unit on one side and one unit on the other side, they cannot see each other. There's basically an infinite wall between the two of them that completely blocks that. And so That's the way that the game works. Previously, if you were a giant model like a knight or something, you could actually be shot at and seen all the time, but the knight couldn't see back. And what towering does is it actually makes it so we're on an even playing field. If you have towering, you can always see through this terrain and be seen through the terrain. Now, true line of sight still applies. If you have a unit that's like tucked in inside of a ruin or whatever, and you can't physically see them from the other model, then you're still safe. But it does unlock, it basically gets rid of this ruin, this obscuring keyword that we have from 9th edition. So very, very powerful ability that GW largely underrated, basically. So there was a lot of questions, how would they change this, right? Would they change the way that towering works? Would they increase the points? Thus far, looks like we can see that GW has just increased the points on everything that has towering. And again, this is across the board. We'll talk about what that means. And the last of the 4 changes, of course, we'll see are errors, maybe, question mark. Just a couple minor things that they've adjusted, units that didn't quite make sense. The Plague Marine box, which comes in a box of 7, you can now actually take as chunks of 5, 7, or 10. So that was a nice thing.
So it looks like for indirect points, Plague Burst Crawlers did not go up.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go, Death Guard players. You got Plague Marines in 7s, and Plague Burst didn't see an increase.
Yeah.
That's actually super interesting. All right, well, there you go. Yeah, that's I did want to mention, obviously this is not the fix to all the armies, right? Death Guard and AdMech not really getting the love they need. Votann not really getting the love they need. This is about addressing big problems that are going to crush other people, basically. And that's the first order for Games Workshop in what we're trying to do here. So, yeah. How's chat doing? Having a good day?
Yeah, chat is doing great. Everyone wants to wake up John for some reason. But, you know, let the boy sleep. Let him sleep.
No, message him. Everyone message John. Be like, John,
Yeah.
wake up. It's time to talk about Warhammer. Let's go.
We want to know your opinions on your Eldar.
Oh, I know. We'll definitely have to get him on very soon. We had a members vote last night. Eldar narrowly lost, I will say. Pretty interesting.
Oh, interesting.
But we will have to try him very soon with the new changes. Yeah. I mean, it'll be less visible on the channel because by and large we're trying not to play egregious stuff. But it's still worth talking about.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, send in your super chats. We're here to answer them and let us know. With that, let's dive on into some of the points, yeah?
Yeah.
As promised, we are going to go through literally all of the points changes here. We have the new cost, the old cost, we have the differential, we also have the percentage change, which will be interesting because we can hopefully take a look at some, whether or not we're seeing any trends. How much does GW rate indirect fire? How much does it rate towering in proportion to the unit? So we're going to take it from the top. The Exorcist, of course, Sisters of Battle, 2 out of control right now. Had to see an increase. This is a 30-point increase on the Exorcist. It's a bummer. It's not the end of the world. It's fine. It's fine.
Fine.
Yeah, exactly. Then we see the Eldar changes. Basically, you can see there's 2 categories here. We have the units that have indirect, and then we have the units that are just kind of too good, period, right? So the Fire Prism and the Wraith Knight and the Scath Hatch all fit into the category of just being too cheap for what they did. The Wraith Knight and the Scath Hatch both increased because of towering, largely. This is, of course, one of the cases where it's unfortunate we don't have war gear upgrades because the Wraith Knight is one data sheet. And you can give the data sheet double guns, or you can give him a sword and a shield. And guess what? The sword and shield Wraith Knight takes almost 0 advantage of the towering keyword, and yet sees a 105-point increase. So, you know, baby with the bathwater there. But it's unfortunate. We'll see later on that the Morganot and Gorkanot do not receive the same treatment. The Gorkanot actually doesn't increase at all, whereas the Morganot does. And that one kind of is able to acknowledge that one of these is the shootier version. So this is the one that's going to get the increase from towering. So I'm sorry, melee Wraith Knights, but not sorry for the shooty Wraith Knights. Fire Prism is interesting because it is one of the few things that is also increased that has nothing to do with indirect or towering. It was just way too cheap. I think it might still be too cheap, frankly. When a Lancer, I'm still trying to compare this to a Lancer, which is about the same points now. I think a Fire Prism is still just better than a Lancer, but what are you going to do? And then, of course, the Night Spinner support weapons, both indirect, seeing another increase. The support weapons, as we have discussed previously, have already increased before, and they've increased once again. 105 I think that's about fair, honestly. You're still going to take, you still could take 1 or 2. It's not an auto take, which is great. That's what you want. I think Fire Prisms still might be an auto take, frankly. They don't need Fate dice to function. They get a single reroll from their data sheet, and they get another reroll from just the faction bonus. So I think Fire Prism's definitely going to be seen, and these are good changes. So that's Eldar. Let's take a look at these green ones here, which are, of course, the Imperial Guard. A lot here. And I'm curious what chat thinks about this one, because Guard, we're not seeing anything wild from them in tournaments just yet. But this is a faction we discussed would be potentially hit hard by any nerfs to indirect, because their identity very much right now is about indirect fire. And it's not, it can be oppressive. It's not quite to the same level as like Eldar was oppressive. But if they're going to take a blanket statement and say we're going to increase the points of all to indirect, what would this do to Guard? So without calling any individual sheet out here, you can see they are roughly a 20% increase across the board, which also happens to be about 20 points, 30 points. I'm very, very curious. Some of these units I'm not sure. Like, I don't even know what a Praetor is, so, or the Colossus for that matter. People can let us know. Oh, it's the Colossus Bombard. That's what it is. The Bombard.
Bombard.
So this is probably the one that I'm the most curious about, because I'm just not quite sure what it means for the faction, how it's going to affect them. But you can see about a 20% increase here.
Yeah. It's all very even, like it's all around 20%.
Yeah, exactly, right? And these are mostly...
Except for Earthshaker.
Right, yeah, except for the Earthshaker.
Earthshaker over there. Yeah.
Which is lower, but it's one of the 2 cheaper units, right? We have two units there that cost 80, and then we have one giant one with the Praetor, but mostly they're around the same kind of category of units. So very curious. I'm curious in chat if you have any thoughts about that. So,
yeah, someone else said, I don't know what a Praetor is either.
Right? It sounds like a Space Marine unit. That's like a Horus Heresy unit.
Yeah.
So strange.
No one else is saying anything much about what these ones are.
That's wild.
Okay, so let's see.
Yeah.
Oh,
cool.
Moving on to the next one.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Just checking real quick.
There we go.
Boop, boop. All right, let's see. So, Sword Brethren, I think this one was one of the typo categories. There was something weird going on with taking squads of 5, squads of 10, because as you can see, the squads of 10 actually does increase at all in points. It just, you get a discount, I guess? This is kind of a weird one. I think it was just a typo, so, but do note that something's going on in there. Moving straight along, we see our first Knights. In this case, this is the Chaos Knights. So, I will say this. I think Imperial Knights are much stronger than Chaos Knights, but both have been performing very, very well at tournaments. Both have, obviously, excessive use of the towering keyword. And so we see, we'll kind of contrast and compare when we get to the regular Knights. But we can see here, again, in this case, a very, very, very consistent 14% increase across the board.
Very consistent.
It's right. The only thing that pops out is the Asterius at 15% and...
The Desecrator.
The Desecrator is interesting. The Asterius and the Porphyron are like giant knights that you won't normally play. You can see like they're 700 and 800 points. So they're not like normal knights per se.
Yeah.
But again, this is all about towering. Towering very, very strong. And I should clarify, the Chaos Knights are still very, very strong.
Yeah.
The Imperial Knights are just better. So they're both a problem. Chaos Knights still needed to get hit by the nerf. I know some people are upset because the Imperial Knights are still stronger. This doesn't solve that, but it does help bring them both down to more of an even playing field. And this is very much GW being like, yep, this is how much it costs to get the towering keyword. It's like a 14% increase. So that's Chaos Knights.
Someone's saying Praetor is a big Forge World missile indirect.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I guess I assumed it was Forge Rolls. It's like a giant, like Mana Core battery cannon thing. Huh. There's so many obscure guard units out there. Like, there's one that's just a little remote control bomb.
What?
And so you put it in your tanks. It's like tanks inside your tanks, and you release them, and they like scurry forwards and they explode. There's just like wild, like bespoke guard stuff.
Nice.
Super crazy. Yeah. That is Chaos Knights.
Okay.
Let's see. So this is potentially a contentious one. We have the Khorne. I have a little typo there. Sorry, guys. Khorne Lord of Skulls. This is the Chaos Space Marine version, seeing a 14% increase. Again, very consistent. For a brief moment, since we're here, I should have pumped this up. Let's scroll down to the very bottom, Lindsay.
Okay.
Because we see down here we have the World Leaders Khorne Lord of Skulls. This is a 25% increase, and some people are not too happy about this because, I mean. The CSM get the Dark Pacts, which I think is probably a stronger ability than what the World Eaters get. World Eaters can gain access to Advance and Charge. They can gain access to a Feel No Pain, and then they're just extra killy in melee. Given the fact that it is kind of, again, a shooty, quote-unquote, shooting edition, the fact that we're valuing this one as more expensive for towering and all that stuff, it does feel a little bit strange that the World Eater one sees such an increase. One thing I hadn't checked yet. So this one started at 420, went to 525. Let's go back up to the CSM one. Was the base cost different or something? No, they both started 420. Interesting. Yeah, it does seem weird. I don't think it's completely egregious, but something worth noting because I know people are not too happy about that.
Yeah.
Moving right along, we have the Plague Marines, which you mentioned. Obviously, it's not actually a points increase or decrease. It's just you can take them in 7s now. So, 7, let's go. Purgation Squads, this is part of Grey Knights. And funny enough, that's kind of their thing now is they can shoot indirect, which they actually got hit a bit harder. We're seeing a 15-16% increase. This is on infantry. They can be untargetable. They can shoot on a line of sight. So I think it's a fair change if you're going to apply a blanket increase to indirect. They are in some ways a little bit stronger because they can also make themselves untargetable. And I like them because they are like an indirect that counters indirect. John has used them to good effect to like hunt, or actually Jesse, well, I think I was thinking about in particular, use them to hunt like D-cannons, like jump up, shoot D-cannons, be untargetable. If they like move, you can overwatch and shoot the D-cannons, stuff like that. So I didn't mind it so much, but I understand why they're trying to be consistent. So. Moving right along, we have the Imperial Knights here. This is, again, very consistent. 14%. We're seeing some 15s, and that's largely on the Forge World units. They don't want to let Forge World get out of hand, but basically it's the same. 1% difference is like nothing. The only standout is, let's see, if we scroll up just a little bit more, we have Canis Rex. Ooh. Saw a bigger points increase. Justified? I don't know. But Canis Rex is amazing. Yeah. He's really, really good. I think he was like an auto take before. And frankly, because of the way that points work and because of the way that Knights list work, I think you're still going to take him. If you were going to take him before, you're going to take him now. It's like he's a slot. Overall, you can see we're increasing these big Knights by about 50 to 60 points. So in a list that was running 2 or 3 of them, you're losing 1 baby Knight. And I think that's the cut that people are largely going to make. Also because it's Knights. Like if you cut 150 points, you can't cut a big Knight. You can the points don't divide well. So here's my question, and here's my question to you, chat. Is this going to make a difference with Chaos Knights and Imperial Knights? Is losing one of those smaller Knights really going to change things? I think they're very, very strong. I think something needed to happen. I think they were too cheap almost regardless of the towering keyword, to be honest, because you're getting almost more than you would have gotten at the end of 9th, and I think they're only stronger now. So I think it's good. It's in the right direction. I am skeptical to see how much it actually drops their win rate. So let me know what y'all think.
There's someone in chat earlier before the stream started, that was saying, "Oh, I just lost one baby Knight."
Right, yeah. Exactly. Like, who cares, right? Yeah. Is it really? It hurts. It hurts, but is it really going to affect the win rate?
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Let's see. So that's Knights, Chaos Knights. The Seraptic Heavy Construct. Oh, one more, just a little bit. It's funny. So this is the Necron big robot that everyone was super excited that you can actually play, and it was actually pretty good. Again, totally fine. 14% increase. Who cares? I think this is still an awesome unit that gives something the Necrons don't necessarily have, which is actually they have a bunch of towering. Interesting enough, things like the Monolith. Does the Monolith actually have towering? Let me check that real quick.
I think someone was saying in chat earlier that it does.
It does?
The Monolith has towering.
Okay, because it didn't get changed at all.
Yeah.
So let's see. Monolith. Okay, let's go ahead and pull that up. I mean, I'm certainly not saying it deserved it, but it does have towering, and it has a good shooting profile. It has like the particle whips, even the death rays I like. Interesting. So the monolith, the Tesseract Arc, I guess, also dodged that. So the only increase we're seeing is on that Seraptic construct, and it is a bigger chunk of points. It is more of like on the level of a knight. The monolith, while it is strong, it's still not quite knight levels of firepower. So I could see why they did that. Yeah, Seraptic construct. The Morganot I mentioned just a bit. I really don't think it needed this increase. The shooting is not the best already. But again, they're going to be consistent. They did not increase the Gorkanaut, as I mentioned. It does have shooting, but nowhere near the amount of shooting as the Morganot. And the Morganot gets access to the +1 to hit when you're under the effects of WA. So I like that they at least acknowledged that. What is kind of... No, I guess it's the same. It's the same. Yeah. So that's them. And here we get to some of the interesting ones, I think. Desolation Marines, which have been widely criticized as being a unit that is once again busted when you start comboing it with things. So if you're not familiar, the way the Desolation Squads work, you take the Super Crack Missile, which is an amazing missile profile with higher strength. It's got decent AP. And then you also take, of course, you have the Castellan launchers, which can shoot out of line of sight. When you look at the base profile, kind of like the last time we saw them, you're like, oh, it's okay, you know, it doesn't seem to be too wild. But then you look at the points and you look at the combos. Points-wise, they were only 24 points for one of these, which is excellent, especially when you compare it to like even a base intercessor. And you can combine them by taking a character. You attach the character, it could be Apothecary, it could be a Primaris Librarian, and you give them Bolt Discipline. So this means that they have crits on 5s. So then you start, it's sustained hits 1 and crits on 5s, so you're proccing extra shots. You can then give them extra AP and ignore cover by putting them in the Doctrine and spending a strat there, which is quite excellent. And suddenly they're heavy. So if you don't move, you're getting the bonuses to hit, and you're basically ignoring all the negative modifiers to indirect, which is kind of, I thought we'd been down this road before, DW. I thought really we learned our lesson. Indirect is a problem, and if you're going to have it in the game, you have to highly value it and make them pay through the nose for it. So Desolation Marines, again, kind of squeaked through. Here we're seeing a massive 10-point increase on each model, 41% increase overall. So now they're going from 24 to 34. I still think they're pretty good. They're not
biggest increase we've seen so far.
Right? Yeah.
Percentage, you know, until we get lower, but
yeah,
before we get there,
we're on the verge of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is a great change. I think they're still worth taking. It's not necessarily worth spamming them out. I think I've been consistently wrong about the Desolation Marines when people find ways to just break them. So we will see if I'm wrong again. But this feels like a good and just change. And for my Ultramarines list that I was working on, this is exactly where all the points increased. It's a 100-point increase, so I have to drop something else, not dropping the Desolation Marines, because I still think that they're great.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's that. Ooh, this is a lot of talking. How's chat doing?
Chat's doing great. They're all just they're talking about their how the point changes affects their armies. You know, what they're excited for, what they're not happy about, how they, the usual.
Are they, what are people's kind of reception? And let us know in chat. Do you like these changes? Are you concerned about them? You know, I'm curious. It
seems to be about 50-50. You know, there's people that are excited. They're like, oh, yay, now I finally, feel comfortable fighting, playing against my friend who had this broken army. But then there's, of course, there's the other side. So right now it feels very split, and a lot of people are just kind of talking about it back and forth.
Totally. I mean, it's fresh off the press, right?
It is, yeah. It's mostly just discussion right now.
Makes sense. We have our game night at the studio tonight, so I'll be playing a couple games, both with and against these changes. So we'll be sure to let you know tomorrow when well, actually, not tomorrow because I won't be playing, but I'll let y'all know, and then you can pass the message along to chat.
Yeah, you can just pass play telephone.
I will play. Yeah, exactly.
Tell John, and then John will tell chat, and then it'll totally change by then.
Yeah, it'll be something completely wrong, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so that's Desolation Marine squads. Whirlwind, I'm pretty happy to see this change because I thought the Whirlwind was quite undercosted, 125 points for another great indirect that it just has amazing value. And so, had they not changed Fate Dice and Eldar points, I was seriously looking at running several Whirlwinds because they are amazing indirect. That is good at killing other indirects such as Ckang and things like that. So I'm glad to see that they saw another increase. Totally fair, 150 points. So now they're on par with a Lancer. I think this makes a lot of sense. Great change. So that's Space Marines. Now we have just a couple on Tau, and these are pretty simple. These are both towering increases, and you can see based off of the percentages, Storm Surge and the Taunar Supremacy suit. Totally fine, totally consistent. Shooty units. You know, I think this is good.
Yeah.
And then we come to the single biggest points increase out of everything, 62% for Biovores.
That's over 50%.
That's a lot. That is over 50%. That's good.
Wow.
Biovores have a couple problems with them. They're indirect, first of all, and that's probably the biggest one. But they also fire these spore mines that move block. They obviously have not addressed problems with spore mines where they can like do secondaries, you know, like you can investigate signals with a spore mine because that totally makes sense and stuff like that. So yes, they do need to address that. I don't think the 62% increase is accounting for that. They're not like, oh, well, since you can do actions, that's going to be that. There are plenty of changes that I'm sure GW is also aware of that they will get to, but will probably come much later. This is like this thing is on fire, we need to extinguish it kind of situation.
And that's what chat's saying. Like the key that keeps popping up in chat. Like this is just a hot fix.
Exactly.
This
it's a hot
is,
fix.
you know, this is just a step to the fixes of everything.
This is not a balanced data slate. People are calling it that, but it's not that. I'd be upset if this was a balanced data slate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the game has not been perfectly balanced from this. So Biovores, take the cake. You can see 62% highest increase. And they have the 1, 2, or 3 just because you could take it in that. We included it for the sake of completion because this is literally all of the points changes. But as you can see, it's the same. You get no like discount or extra tax for taking multiple in a squad. The Harpy, of course, is the Tyranids Flyer. This is another one I'd be curious from chat why this increase is in here. We haven't seen increases on other flyers. I can only assume that part of this is actually a spore mine tax, the fact that they are incredibly useful and they are being penalized for that. If there's another factor, please let me know. We actually haven't played Harpies in 10th edition, so we'll be very, very curious to hear about that. And last of all, we kind of talked about this already, but the Khorne Lord of Skulls for World Eaters, 25% increase. It's a weird one to me. They increased the points, the points by more on the non-shooting version of it than they did the shooty version. Riddle me that, James. Riddle me that. And that's all the points changes. Again, if you can feel free to use this as reference. There's way more information than I actually expected to have. So it was, I found it to be helpful to kind of have this like wholesale view of it. We can see the percentages, where are they consistent, where are they perhaps not consistent, and we can kind of draw our conclusions from there. I do think that these were good changes. Let's pull up the recap real quick, Lindsay. So again, if you're just tuning in now, or you want the TLDR, Fate Dice changed once per phase. Excellent. Indirect points increased basically across the board, not the Plague Burst Crawler. Excellent change. Towering, if you have the keyword towering keyword, you most likely had your points changed. Definitely, if you were a shooting unit, you had your points increased. And then, of course, there were a few errors. Sword Brethren, a couple other things I'm blanking on, but they felt like they were just typos. They were just addressing. Oh, Plague Marines, so you're welcome. So that was largely the 3/4 things that happened during the document. You know, it's very, very much live. The game is changing, and it's been cool to see that GW is actually responding. They are making big mistakes, for sure, but at least they are addressing them. So I appreciate that, and you know, we'll see. With that, we can take some questions.
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, let me load the first one
Oh,
up
sorry,
real quick.
caught you off guard.
No, it's all good.
Hopefully everyone's having a lovely Wednesday.
Okay, so this one is from Brennan Duck. Thank you, Brennan. And Brennan says, FOB went up, but 2 types don't have indirect. Need points for war gear back.
Yes, exactly. FOB. What do you think that is, Lindsay? It must be on that list, right?
It must be. Let's
FOB.
Field Ordnance Battery.
Ah, okay, cool. Right, this is the new kit that you can build as the bombards, or you can build as the other profiles. Yeah, honestly, this is the first time. Well, I think it's the first update that we're really seeing the downside of not having this nuanced war gear. You know, I think that's a big thing for sure. As we mentioned, there's the melee Wraith Knight, and that sucks. Like, I think it might have been smart to separate some of these out more. So like, make the melee Wraith Knight a different data sheet than the regular Wraith Knight. I think that one for sure makes sense. Units like this, it's a bit tougher because it's like then every time you have indirect, you pop it out. How do you know it's going to be a problem? You should know it's going to be a problem. Yeah, free wargear definitely does have its issues and its drawbacks. So, thank you, Brennan. Appreciate it.
Someone suggested in chat. I think FOB is Fish of Battle. I like
Fish
that.
of Battle.
Fish
Yes.
of Battle.
Yes, the fishes of battle.
Yes. Oh, freaky outer bandits.
Right.
I love it. Oh.
Seriously.
Okay, this next one is from Scott Toib.
What's up, Scott?
Toib. No indirect nerf to PBCs because GW knows GG are bad.
Yeah, they are. Just kidding. Sorry, Scott. Scott is an excellent Death Guard player. We played his list a couple times on stream
Nice.
after he just absolutely killed it near the end of 9th edition. Curious, Scott, what you're playing with your Death Guard these days. Yeah, let me tell you, they definitely know about the AdMech and the Death Guard of the world, and probably the Votan of the world as well. So
Yeah.
I expect help in the future, if not the near future. I think they did mention in the article today that the next update will be in fall with the actual balanced data slate, which, you know, I guess that's actually not too far away at this point.
Yeah, fall. Well, we just hit the beginning of summer.
We did, technically?
Technically, we just hit
what?
the beginning of summer. Not to
Actually.
Actually, yeah.
No, that's fair.
And then the summer, the solstices, they're usually the longest.
Oh, okay.
Not to make you guys, feel like it's a long time.
Feel like it's a
but-
lot far away. No, it's funny. Yesterday Mel was like, and after the 4th of July, that's when it's time for spooky season. And I was like, what?
The days are now getting shorter.
Oh, right. We've
Yeah.
officially
We've
hit that
officially-
solstice.
Hit that hump.
Oh man.
I know, right? I like the.
I'm way more active. Like, I know it's like an actual
Right?
thing. Like,
Yeah.
if when you have short days, like if you're not used to it, especially, like you just, things don't get done.
Yeah.
But I have the opposite problem right now. I'm like, okay, like time to like chill out for the day, and it's like 9 o'clock. I'm like, man, I gotta go to bed soon. You know, this is definitely a thing. So
I like the longer days.
it's so much better.
Yeah, I get home and it's like I'm gonna go for a walk.
Exactly.
It's still bright outside.
So much more time for activities. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Although right now it's like super hot here.
Yeah.
So kind of have the opposite problem. Like, I have to do my gardening by night, and nighttime is like quite late now. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Ooh.
yeah, because you don't want to boil the veggies.
No,
know?
you don't. No.
Not yet, at least.
Not yet. Yeah.
So,
Thanks, Scott.
Scott.
This next one is from Ian Burke. Thank you, Ian. Overall, I'm fine with the changes. I get they are trying to find balance, but SB going up 3 ppm for Templars makes 0 sense. Laughy face. Like, okay, I guess I'll take one enhancement, GW, LOL.
Yeah, the Sword Brethren thing is weird. I mean, let me know what y'all think in chat about that. Like, so the way I verified this, funny enough, is I actually used the GW app, which I don't know if I have to reinstall it to get the updated points.
A lot of people were, so you have to update it, or
Right.
Willow or Melody was saying something. It is like you have to update it.
Okay, cool.
Or restart it or something.
I was
get it to
glad to
update.
have this, because really, I guess what we should probably do at the studio is, like, every time we get one of these documents, we should download it and save it, because the moment you get an update, you want it. The first thing you want to do is compare it. Like, well, what was it before?
Yeah.
So I was glad to see that the app had not been updated. So let me pull up these. I just want to, like, confirm these Blade Guard, because it did seem so strange to me. How do Space Marines, Black Templars, boom, make a nonsense list. Create army. Okay, so this is the Blade Guard. No, Blade Brethren, Sword Brethren, Sword Club boys.
Sword boys.
Right? Yeah, so they were 150 before, going to 330. Yeah, so I think it really is just that mismatch between the small size and the large squads. They were supposed to be at this increase. It looks bad, but I believe it is just a typo, Ian.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in chat were like, it's just a typo.
Yeah.
It's a typo. It's a fix.
Totally. I'll have to tell my dad, though. I guarantee he hasn't seen it, and he's definitely already made his list for Nova.
Oh, no!
So we'll see.
Whoops.
Okay, well, thank you, Ian. This next one is from Seedroots. Thank you, Seedroots. I'm happy to see a triage patch. It shows they're paying attention and willing to immediately address things, even if they miss a bit, i.e. Lance or Nerf.
I know, the Lancer. Okay, so the Lancer is super weird because they also didn't increase the points on the Gallant Knight, which is another effectively all melee knight. So like they clearly could see like where they should stop, and then they're like, nah, Lancer, like 4-year-old, hit that button, smash that button, let's go. I wonder what does the Lancer even have a shooting profile? Let's see. We're learning on the fly here. Imperial Knights. Let's add a Lancer. You know, they should drop the points back down when they do the plastic kit. That's the Shock Lance range weapon. Yeah, so this is nothing. It's a 6-shot, 2 damage. It's sustained hits 2. It is assault. Like, it's cute. It's only 12-inch range, so like, let's be honest, you could probably already see the target even without towering. So yeah, that's a little bit silly if I'm honest. And if I recall, the Lancer did get the full 14% increase. So yeah, but they are learning.
Yes. We're, you know, what? How long has 10th been out?
Oh, I know.
Officially, like
a week, 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
When did Leviathan go on sale?
Leviathan. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah. Like 10 days.
So this feels like the right time for those fixes. Like 2 weeks after launch, people were upset when they didn't release a patch pre-launch, which was like, let's all slow down for a second.
Yeah.
Y'all should probably play the game at least once before we do anything.
Yeah. People are still you know, putting together all the new models and stuff.
I know,
yeah,
exactly.
I think the core book just like officially, like just the plain core book came out last Saturday.
That's right. They
announced with the Crusade,
the new stuff. Yeah.
All the different. Yeah.
Exactly. How are your Tyranids coming along, by the way?
They're good. Well, I was out of town for a week, so I didn't really.
You didn't take your models with you?
I didn't take my models with me, no. But I've made it through. I have all the Termagants done, except for the bases. The bases have been touched, but I have the Termagants done, the Neurogants, the Barbgants. I'm the Leapers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I just got the Leapers. Oh, I need to put some final touches on them. Yeah, I have the Prime.
Oh.
I need to clean up the Screamer a bit. There's some gaps and stuff that I want to fill up.
That's
and
weird.
then I have the Psychophage.
Psychophage.
And then the Neuro
Tyrant.
Neurotyrant. Okay.
Yeah.
Those ones still to do.
I mean, you're just cruising, honestly.
I've got it down to where it's pretty. Like I can get a unit done. And like if I sit down and like put on a movie, I can get it done.
Now that you like have your scheme set up,
yeah.
That's the hardest. Like when you're experimenting in the beginning and it takes you to kind of figure it out. But an army like Tyranids especially, it's like this is how the chitin works. This is how the like gooey stuff goes. You know.
Yeah.
And you can kind of like apply that across.
Yeah. And it's nice. Like they all have very similar bits and stuff. So it's like okay, I need to find just find this bit for But yeah, it's been fun.
That's great.
So we're getting there. I'm getting them to a point. Right now, my main goal is just to get them to a point where I can play with them. I can like, okay, the basics.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And then I can go in and like add a few details and stuff.
That's the way to do it, right? Get them on the table first, and then spice them up from there.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Thanks, Idris.
Thank you. This next one's from Fate's Day Dreamer. Thank you, Fate's Day. I think points for the towering and indirect does not address the fundamental issues with these rules. They break other fundamental rules. Hopefully this is a band-aid, but we need an overhaul of the rule.
Oh, this is great. I'm really glad you brought this up, Fate's Day. Honestly, I think this is a big question, right? Is this enough? Is this going to fix towering and indirect? I agree and I don't. I'm very torn on it. I think towering is very, like, I'm almost more, let's see. I think towering is harder to fix than indirect in the sense that like it can become more of a problem. Indirect, I think they can make it cost a lot. They can make units not ignore all the benefits. So like for example, Desolation Marines getting, I think almost anything that has indirect should not have the heavy keyword, or at least they shouldn't be able to use the heavy keyword when they're firing indirect, right? Because that almost just that gets rid of half of the negative modifiers, and then there's a million ways to get ignore cover in a number of these armies, and that ignores the other half of the negative modifiers. So I think it's almost like, I think indirect needs to be designed well on the data sheet level, and you know that's probably part of what you're talking about right now. Like this isn't going to address that, right? This is the Desolation Marines still have the wild shooting that they have. They're still going to ignore a big part of the game, but so for now, what they're trying to do is make it so that it's less efficient to do. So I don't know that it's not enough, but I think it's definitely a concern. Yeah. Thank you, Fate's Day.
Yeah, thank you. I think Fate's Day's chat and Siege Root's chats, it's like they're both a good example of what's going on in chat right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, people were excited and people were like, meh, you know. I think that, yeah.
Right. Well, and towering is such a complicated rule too because terrain matters so much, and the way you play terrain matters so much. And I think this for me is just reinforcing the stance that we've had, which is make it so that all your windows are closed. And this is what GW is doing at their events, because if you are, like, our terrain has tons of holes in it. It's like almost designed to do that. So if you play it truly as is, where towering units can just see through those windows, that means towering can just see the entire board. Yeah. And there's no point in playing the game, right? Yeah. So I think doing those changes like that and having enough terrain on the board is super, super important. The reality is, are people playing with this rule? Are people playing with enough terrain? I don't know. And I don't want to be the one that makes excuses, but it's also like hard to know. Like I'm just curious. I wish I could kind of see what everyone's boards look like.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Fate's Day. This next one is from Willow. Thank you, Willow Weeks. I really feel like we wanted rules changes, but only got points. Really could have used a change to indirect and devastating. We'll see how this holds. Yeah,
I'm very curious to see. I mean, I hope most events will take this into effect immediately, starting this weekend. I guess some list submission issues might come up. So again, saying wanting more than just the points changes here from Willow, indirect and devastating. Nobody's mentioned devastating yet, so thank you for bringing that up. Devastating wounds is definitely a problem. I don't know. I'm so torn on devastating wounds, honestly. I like having mortal wounds kind of overriding everything. I don't like how pervasive it is, and I don't like how easy it is to combo with like full rerolls to get those sixes consistently. So I'm definitely not opposed to a change to devastating wounds. Like you could literally change what the keyword does or how it triggers. I don't know. I think indirect and devastating is still going to be very, very, very strong. Like devastating is still the king of everything. So, yeah. I'm just very curious, to be honest. I'm very, very curious. I don't know what John's going to bring tonight. I'm going to play John. I hope he brings either his Thousand Sons or his Aeldari. Not because I want to fight them now that they're weaker, but like because I think those things are still really strong. Like the devastating wounds are still solid. So I'm curious, like, how do armies hold up against it?
Yeah.
Will he give you a heads up on what he's gonna bring, or is he just gonna like bring something and be like, surprise?
Right. So he was trying to give me a heads up yesterday. We were talking about our game, and he's like, what do you want me to bring? And I was like, bring anything. Just make sure you bring like competitive list. Like go as hard as you can. So I'm down for anything. He was trying to be nice about it, which I appreciate. But I'm like, you know what? I want to go up against something without like doing like a balance beforehand. Like I'm going to a tournament, take your list, and then I'll see what I can do against it.
Okay.
So we'll find out.
Yeah.
Join the Discord, and maybe I'll send some updates later on.
Yeah, you have to let us know.
Send help.
Yes.
Indirect's not fixed.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Willow. This next one is from Adrian Smart.
Oh.
Thank you, Adrian. Not this Adrian. Other
No,
Adrian.
the other one.
Thoughts on there still being no changes to BT character keywords? Hellbrick still isn't a chapter master. Marshals aren't captains, and Castellans aren't lieutenants. Will we see this change? Thanks.
I really, really hope so. And I had forgotten about this. This is another one I would put in the category of like typos. I still think it's a mistake. I still think they should fix it. I haven't gotten confirmation or cannot say confirmation that they will fix it. But they 100% should. So we saw them, so they did points. They adjusted the points there. And then they just fully released the full like updated Eldar index, which is interesting because, frankly, it's actually kind of like, if you don't know for a fact that the only thing that they changed is the fate points, there's actually no way to really know what was updated with it. There's the updated index cards, but it's a bit awkward. So I could see them being GW, being like, oh, we don't want to do a bunch of little hot fixes to deal with like those kinds of things. I think they should have, 100% they should have, but I'm saying this to say I still think it can and should happen. Thanks, Adrian Smart.
Yeah, thank you. This next one is from Evan Tumanello.
What's up, Evan?
Thank you, Evan. What are thoughts on the Gorkonaut/Morganot if just playing for fun? Will they do some work or be shot down with the anti-vehicle mindset that most people will build into their lists?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Great question. Well, I think the first thing you have to figure out, so you're playing it for fun. Is your opponent also playing for fun? If they are, you can kind of have that conversation, make sure that things are a little bit balanced in that regard. And I would feel totally fine doing that. You could still have an amazing game. Beyond that, I do think they're interesting for just fun. Even if you're the only one playing just for fun, you're playing against a competitive list. I'm more interested in the Morganot than I am the Gorkonaut because the Morganot has that inbuilt 5+ invulnerable save. Finally, it's like finally a fully fledged knight. And I think, let me double check, but I think that invuln works in melee, which would be pretty fantastic. So I'd say I'm still Morganot curious, and I think that you should be too. So let's see, Morganot, pull up profile, boom, boom, boom. I really like the +1 to hit. And there's a couple ways you can get it, right? You can get the mech to fix them up, get a +1 to hit. You can also get the +1 to hit when you're under the effects of Wa. So between the two of that, you can always be getting +1 to hit. And in the turn in which you are doing both, you can ignore a -1 modifier. So that makes it much, much more compelling than like 90% of the other orc shooting, because it's all hitting on like 5s, often 6s. So let's see, invulnerable save. Yeah, it's just a straight up 5+ invulnerable save. So I'm very interested in the Morganot. The Gorkonaut, I think you need the invuln save. As you mentioned, there is a lot of anti-vehicle in there. So I'm not too wild about the Gorkonaut, even after the points, the lack of points increases. Thanks, Evan. Good question.
Belgo in chat says he's Gorky curious.
Gorky curious. Gorky curious.
Thank you, Evan. This next one is from Ben Deckard. Thank you, Ben. Thoughts on Aiden Smalley going 5-0 with pure Death Guard at Element Games GT at the weekend? Cultist going scout and infecting objectives is nice.
I love it. It's awesome. And I will say, I believe this was the event at which there was the loaded dice incident.
Oh yes.
Which was first place. So I believe technically, I saw Aiden had posted on Facebook, and I hope that they retroactively gave Aiden first place, because definitely deserved first place, given what happened. So congrats on first place. I think it's awesome. I think if you look at Aiden's list, they play the game. They set up to play the secondaries, and this is something that we can see in a lot of the armies that are like down, right? Even things like we talked about sisters being able to play the secondaries pretty well. We talked about totally blanking. So for example, orcs are not necessarily as killy as they were, but they can just go mega MSU, and they're actually doing quite well just through playing the secondary mission. And it doesn't matter, what dies they're going to die, they're going to score their points. So I think, it's obviously played very well, but also the list is designed well to take advantage of the way that 10th edition plays. And I think that's something we got to try to do with these armies that are a little bit less powered. Big congrats to Aiden.
Yeah, it's great to see.
Right?
It's great to see.
Death Guard, who'd have thought?
Yeah, right? Well, thank you, Ben. This next one is from Ckang. Thank you.
Hey.
Spirit Seer currently raw rings back a model per command phase, both yours and opponent. Hoping it's a typo and to see more errata/rules updates soon.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I want to take a look at that. Now that Eldar have been nerfed, I feel like I can finally play them a little bit. So, take that, John. Let's see. Spirit Seer. I mean, I believe you. I believe you about the issues. I'm just curious to see Spirit Seer, because this one was not on my radar. So Spirit Seer has the Tears of Isha Psychic. While this model is leading a unit in the command phase, you can return 1 destroyed bodyguard model to that unit. Wow. That's a little busted. What? At least on the app it says that. Have you checked, Ckang, if it says that on the index? Because there are a few times where the app is wrong. it has weird typos in it. But yeah, that definitely should be addressed. That's 2 Wraith Guard a turn, which is that's too much. That's a lot of points, a lot of durability, a lot of shooting coming back.
I don't know if you've talked about this yet, but how are you liking the app?
I really like the app. I think it works.
Okay.
It is great. It's very, very convenient. It is a little bit drop down intensive. And actually Shane was discussing this morning in one of our chats. Like, there's no way to just view the whole sheet all at once. Like, I think you can do in the Sigmar app, which I really, really like. You have to be like, range weapons, pop down, melee weapons, pop down, and kind of do that. So I wish there was a way to get just like an all at once view, and you could just like pinch and zoom or something.
Oh, yeah.
But other than that, I do really like it. I find it very easy to use. And I basically made the switch as soon as I got the app. I was like, this is what I'm going to use for everything. Yeah, I'm shockingly surprised. I'm actually pleased by it.
How does it compare to the Sigmar app? The Sigmar app does have has more years under its belt.
Exactly.
But yeah,
I
how
think
would you?
It's good. It's very similar. I think. Are there things about this app that I like better than the Sigmar app?
Ooh, okay.
You know, I think there's the army rules are nice and easy to access, so I appreciate that. I like so when you go into Sigmar, it's a bit easier to like see all the armies at a glance. Like when you open up this one, it's like here's all the indexes in text format, and it's like here's like Index Aeldari, here's Index Aeldari Combat Patrol, and it's just a line of just like not images, basically. I guess is my complaint. So often when we're thinking about doing lists and armies for the week, I used to go ahead and pull up the GW website, and I'd be like, here's all the factions, kind of like see them laid out there. Now what I'll do is I'll go create new army, and then you can see them because there's like a nice little graphic. You can kind of get them in your mind's eye and see all the armies at once. So I wish they did that for the reference sheet as well as the the army creation.
Yeah. Okay.
So
neat. Neat. Thank you.
Good question.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Ckang. This next one is from Matthew Powell. Thank you, Matthew Powell. Good morning from 26.6F New Zealand. Is that Fahrenheit? Is that? Lindsay, have you watched Pixar's Elemental? Very good movie. And Adrian, do you think GW will put Forge World datasheets in the Codex?
Oh. Well, you first, Lindsay.
I have not seen Elemental. I am really, really bad at seeing movies. Like last time I was at a movie theater, I don't know, it was a few months ago. It's like I go see a movie like once a month, and I don't really watch movies outside of that. Not once a month. Once a year.
Once a year.
Once
okay,
a year.
I was like,
sorry.
once a month is pretty good.
Yeah, I know. That's actually pretty good.
That's a lot
And so I am so behind on Pixar movies. Like I used to love Pixar. But I am so behind.
Do you watch them when they come out on streaming platforms, or even at the end, at that point, are you still?
At that point, I'm still. At that point, they've kind of left my mind,
right.
and I totally forget about them until I'm like scanning Disney Plus one day. I'm like, oh yeah, that movie came out
like 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Yeah. Yeah.
Gotta get on that.
I know,
I
right?
don't like going to the movie theaters.
Yeah.
It's expensive, it's stinky. There's a bunch of loud, annoying people there.
Yeah, right. I don't want to hear I don't want to smell the person's nachos behind me and hear them chewing on it.
Exactly. I hate it.
Yeah.
And it's hard because like Shane loves it, and I have a group of friends that love it. And I'm
Oh.
just like, it's not my jam.
Yeah.
I'll wait until it comes on at streaming, and then I'll watch it at home.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's like, and then you
Totally
could
fine.
you could be doing something else. Like
I
that,
could be
that's
building
my
models.
thing.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
that's my thing. Like I want to be able to do something else.
Yeah. Exactly.
I can't sit down for 3 hours and like stare at a screen.
Same, yeah.
I need to be doing something. But yeah, so one day I'll watch it.
Yeah,
Matthew.
apparently.
But apparently it's good, so that's good. And
Yeah, check it out.
there's been a few Pixar movies that are like meh lately.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Ooh, Soul's another one that I need to see.
Ooh, I do want to see that.
I haven't seen
Yeah.
that one yet. So
That one's also already kind of a bit old too.
I know it is.
Gotta keep up. Come on.
I know. Oh.
Not that I've seen it, so fair's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. So one day.
Right.
Yeah. And then Adrian, yeah.
Do I think GW will put Forge World data sheets in the Codex? No, I don't think they will. I think it's good. It raises some interesting questions of how will they publish them? Will they publish them? Right? Are we going to actually see a physical print Forge World book? On one hand, it's like obviously yes, but on the other hand, like we then run into the classic Forge World problem where they then release all the data sheets at once and that's like where they are kind of fixed. I guess we're kind of already at that in the index point. Or do they, I don't see them releasing an index like smaller mini Forge World indexes. So for me, it's a big question mark of like, will there be a physical Forge World book given the way that they have done the indexes? Now in the past, I can't remember what they did for 8th edition. Does anyone in chat recall? There was, oh no, because it wasn't digital. Right away there was the index book. And that was it for the whole edition. So yeah, I'm not even sure that there will be a new Forge World book. I don't think they'll be in the Codex. Yeah. That's very interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Thanks, Matthew. Appreciate it.
So Matthew did confirm that 26.6 is the degree, the Fahrenheit. Yeah.
That's cold.
That is.
What the heck? In New Zealand?
In New Zealand. Well, they're opposite of us. So we're in the
it's winter for them.
the heat of summer.
Right.
We're in the peak of summer. They're in the peak of winter.
That's right. I always forget that.
Yeah,
Such a
right?
weird concept. Like,
It is, right?
the winter for y'all now? Strange. Thanks, Matthew.
Thank you. Next a question is from Eric Ramsow Sour. Thank you, Eric. It feels like there is no nuance to these changes. How do they not fix appraising glare or anguish of the unredeemed? Would take 20 minutes max.
You know, Eric, this is one of the things I also checked. Like I went through, I was like, okay, unit changes, went through. And then I was like, wait, did they change any of the enhancements? Because there was, what was the one I was thinking of in particular? There's a couple that, Bolter Discipline, which is the one that you put on Desolation Marines. And it just feels like it's a very strong enhancement that is very easy to abuse. And I was like, surely they're going to increase the points on that. I went over, nope, 25 points, whatever it is. Didn't increase it at all, which I was pretty shocked by as well. So yeah, I totally agree. I would have thought that enhancements would have been another good way to fix some of these problems. I know you can take Bolter Discipline on a unit and make it not ridiculous, make it not problematic, but I think they could have just increased the points on that as well, frankly. And if you hit the other units, you hit the other units. Like, it is what it is. So I am surprised that they didn't tweak the enhancements, if anything. So I feel you.
Thank you. This next one is from Zachary Haben. Thank you, Zachary. Who do I complain to about the Exorcist increase? I just want a Gothic organ/tank/missile launcher. I wasn't going to break it or anything. Pinky promise.
Pinky promise. I know, right? It sucks. It sucks. But I think at least this was 30 points up from 140 to 170. So I guess that's about 14%. It's actually might be a little bit more. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I still think it's a great unit. I think you definitely still take 1. I think you possibly still take 2, honestly. For a 30 or 60 point increase, like it's some real good indirect. That's real good. So stay strong, Zachary.
Oh yeah. Thank you. This next one is from Christopher Sanford. Thank you, Christopher. Towering Monolith got no points increase. Might be treating myself to one after all.
Let's go, Monolith Party! The Monolith shooting is really good. It has devastating wounds. It's awesome, and it's really not that expensive. Like I think it's like maybe 300 points.
Yeah.
So I guess I feel like I have to like come up with a reason why they did these, but I'm also like wondering like why did they increase this thing and not this other thing, right?
Yeah.
Was it not scary enough for you? But the Morganot was scary enough, which is way worse than a Monolith in my opinion, at least shooting wise. So what gives, GW?
Yeah, like on Saturday, it was Necrons,
That's right.
yeah, and they just put it right in the middle of the board, and it sat there and just devastated the Grey Knights. It was scary to watch.
It's really, really scary.
Yeah.
So who knows why they do what they do?
Yeah. It's just a small patch for right now.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, just a small fix.
Things will
for
change.
Some things.
Yeah. Thank you, Christopher. This next one is from Noah Ranger. Thank you, Noah. Multi-damage dev wounds feels too good and swingy. I wish they had other crit wound effects like bonus AP, mortals in addition, etc.
This is a great point, Noah. I really think that this is something they should be looking at if they're not already. This is where the power of the keyword system can actually come to play. Because what they can do is in one fell swoop, they can say, you know what, this is what Devastating Wounds does, and fix all those units that are problems. And you can make it scale, like you're saying. So you can say mortal wounds, Devastating is 1 mortal wound in addition, or you'd have to do that because any multi-damage with Devastating Wound, if you made it just go straight down to 1 mortal wound, is like, in many cases, a downgrade. In some cases, it's a side grade. But you can change what it is, like you say, increase AP, whatever. And so I hope that they're considering this as an option. I understand if they're like, I get that they're reticent to change a keyword right off the bat, but I think they should at least be considering it because it's I think it'd be the right call. There's more complicated fixes you can do. Like I've heard some people talking about take Devastating Wounds and make it about make it so they only trigger on natural 6s, which means no fate dice and no rerolls. So the first time you roll it, if you get a 6, then it procs. If you re-roll it, then it doesn't. Then you can't fish for them. So I think that's an interesting solution. It's a little bit more complicated, but these solutions also work, and they're going to be more straightforward, which, as we've seen, is generally what GW is likely to go for. Simpler is better in their mind. Thank you, Noah.
Thank you. This next one is from Warp Smith Nav. Thank
Hey.
you, Warp Smith. Would a 1 CP core stratagem giving a unit 5+ feel no pain against mortal wounds help alleviate the pain?
The pain! I think it would. I almost worry that then... So we think about the extremes, right? But we should think about both ends of the extremes. We have armies that have a ton of mortal wounds, like too many, and then we have armies that just have a few and they have a little bit. And so if you provide something that just basically reduces all of that by a third, it's going to hit those other armies as well that have like sometimes mortal wounds. Like a cool thing happens and they get mortal wounds. And I think we want to be wary of shutting them down. I'm just thinking in my head about like how consistent people can make it, right? If it really is like a sometimes thing, then it's fine. And you wouldn't be able to proc the strat, right? If it's like, oh, there's a small chance of getting it, are you going to spend the CP? I'm not totally opposed, but I definitely am wary about something like that. I think I would go more specifically for Devastating Wounds. So, phone call.
Thank you. This next one is from Pandemic Painting. Thank you, Pandemic Painting. For Daemons, I'm bringing 2 Brigands, Fate Weaver for indirect, Shabaxi, KOS, Demonettes for combat plus belly. Are big demon lists too thin on board presence?
Oh, man. This is the question I want to know, Pandemic Painting. So you tell me, chat, tell us. We need Pandemic Painting and we need to know this. The big monster list is so much fun to play right now. But the question is, Does it have enough board presence? Can it do without a ton of shooting? I think Pandemic Painting, you've also recognized the problem there by bringing the Brigands, which of course will give you the Melta, as well as the Gatling, and Fate Weaver for indirect. Just played Fate Weaver for the first time last night, by the way, and he was awesome. So, I really like this list. I like this list a lot. I think they can be fine. I think like we are seeing some armies do fine without a ton of small units. I think for me personally, my gut instinct with 10th edition is to have lots of small units to be ready for any secondaries possible. But we are seeing people see success with more elite armies. Things like Space Marines can do it, and they're managing it. So my gut instinct is that with practice, it can be fine. We'll try. Yeah. And let us know in chat. I'm looking for an answer to this. I need to know how to play my big demons.
Oh yeah, thank you. This next one is from Ocelot.
Oh,
Thank you. Is the channel excited about Legions Imperialis? As someone with 5k points of AT Titans, I can't wait to have them walk, especially if Skitarii release.
Yes. So Titanicus has expanded. We now have basically Epic, right?
Yeah.
So teeny tiny little models, which is great. If I had to gripe, I'm going to gripe. My only gripe would be I still want it to be like a 40k version. I want to have modern 40k so I can have my orcs. I want epic orcs and all that stuff. So that's my one complaint. That's my complaint about Titanicus too, is Horus Heresy, and I want to do 40k. But it is really cool, and we will for sure be doing it. I'm curious to see like what size an army is, but I feel like it's going to be pretty approachable. You know, Titanicus is a very approachable game. Aeronautica is a very approachable game, and I imagine that Epic is going to be as well. So
yeah,
cool.
It'll be cool. Thank you. This next question is from Christos Margaritopoulos. My Chaos Knights. Why did we have to suffer for Imperial Knights? I was thinking of bringing a knight to my T-Sons. Back to Magnus now.
Back to Magnus. Look, I think Chaos Knights were still very strong. I prefer the Chaos Knights, but the Imperial Knights are stronger, but Chaos Knights are still strong, right? Just because Imperial Knights are not more of a problem doesn't mean that Chaos Knights were not a problem. And I know there was not a ton of data out thus far, but the data that we did have on the first few weekends was showing that Chaos Knights, while significantly lower than Imperial Knights, were actually far above the average win rate. And so clearly there was a problem. And so I think it's fair to give everyone that flat 14% bump in points. Do I think that Imperial Knights should have gotten more bumps on top of that? Probably. But Chaos Knights increasing by itself, I think is totally fine. Plus, you should bring Magnus anyways, because he's awesome and cool. So there you go, Christos.
Yeah, thank you. This next question is from Archon Silax. Thank you, Archon. Why did witches' point values not get changed? Smack my head.
I know. Poor witches. There are lots of changes that need to be made for sure. There needs to be more points tweaks. There needs to be more rules changes. They need to happen. They haven't happened yet. I guarantee there are more problems with the game. This is not the balanced data slate. I wish people would stop calling it that. So we got to hang on until fall. Sorry. Sorry, Silex. If you like Drakari, which I think you do, tune in tomorrow. We're going to play them.
Ooh. Oh, thank you. This next one is from Better Gaming Every Day.
Oh, hey.
Thank you, Better Gaming. Chaos Knights had a 45% win rate. Towering isn't the issue. It's insane durability of Imperial Knights and Fate dice mechanics. Saying towering is the issue is a lazy analysis of the masses. 40k is highly nuanced.
You know what? Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they had a higher win rate than that. I obviously could be wrong. But towering, I still feel strongly that towering is an issue. It's not the only issue for sure. I don't think this is going to solve the game overnight. But towering, like indirect, are a problem because of the massive parts of the game that they just ignore. You know, there's like this famous adage of like, the more rules that your army ignores, the better it is. And this is kind of a fact with a lot of different games, right? You have the core rules, and the more things you can ignore about the core rules in your army or character or whatever, the better. And so I think towering definitely is a problem. I just think Imperial Knights are more of a problem than Chaos Knights. So I hope Chaos Knights don't get dropped down too low based off of this. But we'll have to see. And definitely there's no illusions, better gaming every day, that GW is trying to take the path of least resistance, for better or worse, right? These are the simplest changes that we're seeing right off the bat to stop the dumpster fire of some of these things. So appreciate the feedback.
Thank you. This next one is from Just Kenneth.
Hey.
Just Kenneth says, could you all do more close-in overhead zoom-ins?
Ooh.
Like the top-down?
Yeah, 100%. We can definitely do that.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
We're always working on improving our angles, our cuts, our coordination between like players and producers, and like when can we do like the hand cam and when we cut to the top down. So absolutely. And again, I appreciate you letting us know, because we want to know what you want to see more of.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Just.
Definitely. Thank you. This next one is from Code Cubster. Thank you, Code. Warhound Titans eating good tonight.
Oh my gosh, you're right. They didn't see an increase, did they? None of Titanicus saw an increase. That's hilarious.
Wow.
I think they probably looked at them and were like, you know what? They only have 2 guns. What's the worst? What's the worst they could do? I'm into it. I think it's great. Thanks, Code.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's see. We got another one just came through. Give me.
Oh, no worries.
Hold for 1
Thank you, everyone,
second.
so much for the questions and support. We really love hearing your voices, and this is so recent that I frankly am curious what everyone's general vibe and thoughts are on the matter. So really appreciate everyone tuning in and joining us.
Well, we've got one more. This is from John O'Neill. Thank you, John. Could you use the Tau Combat Embarkation Stratagem with a tide wall? Or am I just using my tide walls as snack trays this edition?
Right.
Snack trays.
Snack trays. Let's take a look.
Is that
Is that a thing?
No, well, I mean, snack tray. I mean, everyone needs a snack tray, right?
I definitely agree. Tau Embark. Oh, so again, now I need to go on the app to the reference section in this long list of like text. Tau Empire. Carry on. Stratagems. Combat Embarkation. So let's see the wording. In your opponent's charge phase, just after an enemy unit has declared a charge, you select 1 Tau Empire infantry unit from your army that was selected as one of the targets of that charge, and 1 friendly transport. You can embark in that transport. If it does, your opponent can select new targets, blah, blah, blah. Every model in your Tau Empire infantry unit must be within 3 inches of that transport, and there must be sufficient transport capacity to embark this entire unit. Okay, so now let's take a look at the tide wall. I imagine shield line, I guess? I imagine it has the transport keyword because it has to be able to do its thing. Yeah, transport capacity of 11 Tau Empire infantry models. Cannot transport battlesuit, Kroot, Vespid, Stingwing. Yeah, it looks like you can. That's cool. It's interesting. I know it doesn't feel like a combat embarkation per se, but they're falling back to the line after they've done their shooting. I guess my question is, I could see circumstances in which you'd want to use it. It's somewhat niche because the tide wall is firing deck, so you can still shoot from it. But I could see needing to get more OC on a point, or needing to use a strat on the unit. Drukhari have a lot of ways to kind of get around the downsides of transports, so this is kind of another way to do it. So yeah, it's a bit niche, but it sounds like it works, John. I love it. So, not snack trays. Yes.
You're gonna have to bring your own snack trays.
Yeah. Bring your. You could bring more tide walls for snack trays. I don't know how many.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, if you have a bunch.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right.
Well, thank you, John. We had another one come in. This
cool.
is another one from Christos. Thank you, Christos.
Hey.
After having played 10th a while now, which army do you enjoy more? Which army surprised you positively and which negatively? Deckard, but.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Good question. Which have I enjoyed the most? Definitely GSC or Demons. I'm really torn between the two, to be honest. Those are both a ton of fun. What surprised me and what have I liked the least? I think generally I've been able to avoid some of the ones I was less interested in. Like the new Tau stuff, I think is good for the army. It seems like a bit of a chore to play, and there's still some kinks they need to work out with how that works as well. So I frankly was hoping to get some answers on that sooner than later before I have to play them and you know, have a decided opinion on them, because it's very awkward right now. So that's definitely one. AdMech, I played the combat patrol of AdMech, and it was very sad. Like, you should feel like a superhero, whatever you're playing. Like, you should feel like you are empowered to play the army, and you're gonna get to do the army's things and be cool with that. But the AdMech were just like, oh, like we kind of you don't even get that like power fantasy of like the cyborg warriors or whatever, like commanding them. So AdMech, you know, not to take an easy shot at someone lying on the ground, but the AdMech were very disappointing in the sense that like not only were they not strong, they also weren't particularly fun to play. It was just kind of like you didn't get to do any of the things that you would normally get to do. So those would be my top and bottom, frankly. Great question, Christos. Appreciate it. Excellent.
And, we have another one. Just popped in.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Yeah, this is your last chance. If you've got questions, we're going to be signing out soon otherwise.
The moment we hit the end.
We'll get another one, though, as soon as we stop.
I can hear the fingers now typing away. Okay, this next one is from a Thrain.
Oh, hey.
Thrain. Hey, Adrian, nearly finished with Saray console. Phobos incoming soon.
Excellent.
My poor GK Purgation peeps. I'm gonna send you a picture of my first unit of Damn.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So Thrain's been working on a unit of infiltrators for our Titan Watch, which, speaking of, shout out to Titan Watch right now. In Discord, we have Kirkanos who's running round 2 of Titan Watch. This is community-generated Death Watch. That's obviously Titan themed. And we basically have a spreadsheet where people can sign up to send in a model. You can paint a model, send it in, and we'll play it on stream. It'll be part of the team. And so in order to make sure that everything gets played, make sure it's something that contributes to the collection that we're going to consistently use on stream, there's actually a list of models. Right now, we're limiting people to just picking one until we've made sure that everyone has a chance to pick one, basically. So check out the Discord and you know, join the Titan Watch. The Legion of the Damned, I will say, that Thrain is working on are absolutely beautiful. They're gorgeous conversions with, you know, the flames, the skulls, the whole deal, and they look beautiful. So looking forward to seeing some more pics of, I guess this time, the finished product.
Yeah.
Thank you,
so
Thrain.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. We have another one that came in.
Kevin.
This is from Kevin Saunders. Thank you, Kevin. Missed the stream as was sleeping in my bed of tea. Happy Rebellion Day. Keep being awesome. Playing my first game since 7th E this weekend. Wish me luck. Good luck.
Thank you. We had a lovely Rebellion Day yesterday. Remember game? We dressed up as hot dogs and hamburgers and played hot dog. No, we did hot dog deployment. It was fantastic. It was beautiful. First game since 7th edition.
Wow. Yeah.
I think you're gonna find yourself, pleasantly surprised. People don't remember 7th edition and how problematic that edition was. So I think you, by contrast, will find this to be a breath of fresh air in comparison. So welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah.
Okay, and that's it.
Did we do it?
That's,
Please.
yeah.
Really want to thank everyone for showing up in force, asking questions, discussing with everyone as well. Because truth be told, we're just here to present the information, give some thoughts on it, and we want to hear what you think about it. This is something that is absolutely just breaking, just came out this morning. So lots to play around with, lots to experiment with. I think the important things to note is the game is moving in the right direction. GW is fixing the glaring problems that exist in the game. So that's good. They at least are able to acknowledge them and fix them in a relatively timely manner. So feeling positive about that. Definitely more to come. Looking forward to the balanced data slate in fall and all that stuff. And on a personal level, I think we're looking to get out to tournaments very soon. I know John signed up for one on the 22nd. I'm going to try to get one a bit sooner than that. So exciting stuff. As we always would like to leave you with what's coming up soon on the channel. Tomorrow, you should absolutely join us. We have a matchup between the World Leaders, played by Bridger, and the Drukhari, played by John. It's going to be an amazing matchup. Lindsay, I believe you're going to be hosting. It's going to be super fun, so definitely want to check that out. And then also on Saturday, join us again. I haven't locked down the matchups just yet, so keep your eyes out for an announcement there. And if you're not a member, first of all, why aren't you a member? You should become one, so you can join us on Tuesdays for some member-exclusive content where you get to vote on the armies, the style, sometimes even more ridiculous things than that we have to play or use. And we have behind-the-scenes content, which we have some more coming up very soon on some stuff that we're working on in the studio that's actually just off screen right here. So if you want to be part of that, become a member today. This was a nice chat, Lindsay.
Yes.
It was a good talk.
It was. I have one question for you.
Yeah, totally.
What is your snack, your gaming snack, your go-to gaming snack?
Oh, my go-to gaming snack. So like Warhammer-wise or like video game-wise?
Warhammer.
Warhammer-wise.
You got you have a Tide wall that has a
Yeah.
a whole bunch of snacks.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Oh man, I'm more of a drinks person when I play games. Like I need to have my little coffee, you know.
Yeah.
So I would say that first and foremost. But when I do have a snack for like rolling games, it's usually in the evening. So it's gonna be like chips or something.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
American chips. So like, you know, salt and vinegar or something like that.
Yeah, Cheetos.
Yeah. Cheetos. Do you have a favorite gaming snack?
Oh, I like chips.
Chips?
Like
See.
chips they're a good way to go. Yeah.
Exactly. You got to be a little bit careful with the greasy fingers, but you know, it gives that nice finish on the models.
Exactly.
You know?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you all so much for joining us. We will catch you on next time on the tabletop. Bye.